Welcome to the Lady Up America podcast. I'm Diane Canada, your host. I'm so glad you're here today. Thanks for tuning in. I know you want to be a woman of influence. Maybe you already are in certain spheres of your life, but you're tuning into this podcast because you want to learn how to influence our culture for God. We want to be better ambassadors for Jesus. We want to be great followers of him and attract other people to follow him too. Because if we get that part right, if the heart is right, the politics will follow, right? So how do we do that? Today, we're going to be digging into my 3 steps, but from a different angle. Today's topic is no trust, no influence. Be right back.
Around this town, around this town. Victory on the battleground. We claim it now. Lady up, lady up.
You know, years ago, as a crisis consultant in the business world, my job was to go into businesses that were just in trouble, right? They were going down. The owner is in complete freak out. The whole staff's ready to get up and walk out. And they would bring me in kind of as a Hail Mary, right? To come in and try to save that business from crashing and burning. And one of the things I would always do is I would try and rebuild the foundation before we could start putting any solutions in place. And sometimes the owners would get really frustrated with me. I actually had one owner that said to me, Diane, when are we going to get to the meat? And what they meant by that is, look, we've got, the business is crashing. When are you going to bring in, the cavalry? And what they didn't understand, and what they eventually would understand if they would be patient, is that there's no cavalry coming, that it really has to do with us rebuilding the foundation, in that case of business, but in our culture, rebuilding the foundation of America. And that starts in our hearts, because the hearts of the people are the foundation. In the business, it's that getting that want to out of your team to want to actually rebuild the business. You've got to get that first. You've got to build some trust equity with them, because right now their trust is completely shattered, right? They don't know if they're going to get their paycheck on Friday, maybe, or they don't know if you support them. Maybe this is a lot of the reason why the business is crashing and burning. Maybe it's because you're not a good leader. Whatever the case may be, these are the things that an owner doesn't want to look at, right? They just want the fire put out. They don't care how, they just want the fire put out. And I would have to coach them through and teach them, no, it starts with you. It starts with the foundation, what's going on in your heart and in their hearts. Because without the people, without the buy-in of the people, there's no business. All business is people. Right? Without good people and them there for the right reasons, and them there because they're motivated to want to rebuild with you, there's no business. Without customers, there's no business. If you've broken the trust with your customers, they can't rely on you, or you don't meet deadlines, or whatever it is. So it has to start with the foundation. And it's the same in our culture. This is what God has shown me the last several years, as I've been kind of repackaging what I used to do in business for people, repackaging it for the cultural fires that we're trying to put out. We can go in and we can try and, put band-aids on things, or we can try and patch things up, or fix a wheel that's broken off. But if the foundation, if the engine's not running, right, then it's just going to break down again. You've got to build the foundation. You've got to rebuild the foundation. And that means the heart and mind of the people. And this is what I see so many people just, I don't want to say getting wrong in politics, but in a way it is. I think we've got some important voices out there that are following the calling that God has put on their life. And I think that we need we need strong voices out in our culture today. And we have some really important ones. But I think what's missing is that trust equity. What's missing is the proximity. Okay, I'm just going to pick on Ben Shapiro for a minute. Okay. I'm not a big follower of the Daily Wire, but I do listen to occasional videos that they put out. And again, I'm not criticizing in any way, but when I see people going to college campuses, for instance, and they do the open mic thing, and different people come up on the mic with, this challenge in mind, they're challenging Ben Shapiro in a room full of their peers. This is the problem that I have with that. Ben is a stranger to them. He has no trust equity built with them other than maybe what they know about him, seeing him in video. And now you've put this person in a position, they're going to come up on a mic, and they're choosing to come up on that mic, right? They're choosing that. But they're coming up on that mic in front of all their peers, hoping to gotcha him, like hoping to back him into a gotcha moment. And he's trying to do the same thing. So it's like this challenge, this war of wit, right? They're coming at that microphone with their stats and their facts, and they're trying to trip each other up, and they're trying to outsmart each other, outknowledge each other, use all the big fancy words, all that. And it's like they're trying to win the argument. Now, I think a good debate is great. Again, I'm not trying to criticize, but I'm just trying to point out that what's missing there is the trust equity. This is why I say in Lady Up America, we are so much more effective in winning hearts and minds with people that already know, like, and trust us. It's that way in business too. When you have a customer, one of your best customers in business, and they love you, right? And they're going to refer all their friends to you. Those are building your business with bricks, because now that's a warm introduction. And now that person is coming in, and, birds of a feather do flock together, right? So you have that really solid foundation that you're building in your business because it's built on trust. When you just have marketing campaigns going out and you're trying to, throw a wide net and you're trying to get anybody in your business, you just want bodies in your business, you don't have near the same loyalty, because you know what? The next business that runs an ad that undercuts you, they're gone. And so it's a very shallow and very vulnerable way to build a business. It's the same way in relationships, the same exact way. When you have relationship with someone and maybe you know them in a different capacity, maybe you're not talking about politics all the time, maybe they're a coworker, maybe there's somebody you go to church with, maybe there's somebody who your kids are on the same team with, whatever it might be, they know, like, and trust you because of some other way that you interact with them in their life. Then you have that trust equity built to approach, or to at least hold your own in the really, really difficult conversations. And you're doing it from a place of compassion and real care for that person. They know that. And so they're going to be a whole lot more open to listening to what you have to say when you master these techniques that I teach you in Lady Up, especially. But when you let the Holy Spirit guide you, and he is the one that's one of the techniques I teach, is don't try to do these conversations on your own. In that moment, say, God, give me the words, and you trust him. That's a huge technique of mine, but you've got to trust him to lead you in that conversation. Then you have so much more opportunity and likelihood of winning that person, because there's a trust equity already in place there. It's the foundation of the relationship. So this is why I say that the Lady Up techniques are so much more impacting. Like we can impact our culture so much more, one powerful conversation at a time, because of that trust equity, that proximity, and that trust equity that you already have with that person. Does that make sense? Strangers are not, we don't have that equity built with a stranger. And so it's a lot harder to win their heart and mind when they just don't know you, or they don't care about you, and vice versa. You're just trying to win an argument. And again, the problem that I have in these college settings when they're doing this is that now they've potentially humiliated this college student in front of all their peers. And that just makes them double down or dig in harder. Sometimes they might win their heart or mind, but it's pretty rare. And the other thing that hurts my heart to see is that when that liberal, that progressive liberal who's been indoctrinated. Okay, this is a young college student who's been indoctrinated. They get up and they're brave to get up on the mic, again, trying to trip up whoever that challenger is. In this case, I'm talking about Ben Shapiro. Then when they say something that is that the opposing team knows is wrong, or that knows is not founded in truth, then they all laugh at this person on the mic. And again, it's tempting to do, and I understand why they do it, and I understand their strength in numbers. I understand that, and it is encouraging to see so many young people that are critically thinking again, and that are turning more toward biblical values, conservative values, Republican values. That is encouraging. but it hurts my heart for the person who is on the mic, who's challenging, because now they've been humiliated in front of all their peers, or they're in a position to have to, like I said, double down and fight harder, because it's so true. I think it was I forget who the author of this quote is, but he said it's so much easier to deceive people than to convince them that they've been deceived. And so people are very attached to their worldviews, and when you're in front of a whole audience trying to dismantle it, I just don't think it's helpful. Do I think it's important for those voices to be heard? Sure. I think it's important for these points of view to be shared. I almost wish that they would. I think Charlie Kirk's doing a better job of it now. I didn't like how Candace Owens used to do it. Don't like how Ben Shapiro does it. Charlie used to be pretty brutal, and you could see it from the titles of the YouTube shorts, right? It would say Charlie Kirk destroys young college student over the issue of abortion. Destroys, right? Really? Is that what we're trying to do? We want to destroy the opposing team. We want to destroy the ideology. We don't want to destroy the person. We want to win the person, right? So I just feel like we can just do it better. I think he's doing a lot better. As I've seen him become a dad, and I don't know Charlie personally, and I agree with pretty much everything he says. I think as he's becoming a dad and growing more in his faith, I think he's treating that opposing person at the mic with more compassion and more respect. I'm seeing a big change in him doing that. He's not just trying to be right. Now, I think he is trying to win them. And so I love seeing that. But it's still not near as effective as the person that you see over and over and over again in your life. You have so many opportunities to plant more seeds and to win them in small. This is one of the reasons too why. Let me just finish my thought. In small little increments. So this is one of the reasons too why I believe that. It's why we like YouTube shorts. I was just talking about these little short videos that we see. We like to watch things in bite-sized pieces. We like to, anymore in our society, we like to absorb information in snack sizes. We have so much information coming at us all the time that our brains go into this protective mode where we kind of filter out the things that require too much energy from our brain. I heard a doctor talking about how our brains burn energy and burn calories just like our bodies do. And so if you've got to expend too much energy or too many calories on thinking about something, you're going to just your brain's going to want to shut that down. If it's something you don't understand or something that threatens your worldview or anything like that, your brain's natural tendency is to sort of resist that. And so, but if you have an opportunity to, in snack bite sizes, drop seeds, what I call lingering questions, with people slowly over the course of a few weeks or a few months or maybe even a few years, then their brains are a lot more receptive to that. Like you can look, if you're scrolling, like we scroll right in social media, if you're scrolling and you see a video that's 2 hours versus a video that's 20 seconds, which one are you going to watch? You're going to watch the 20-second one. Right. And so this is what I teach in Lady Up America, is that it has to be little seeds that we plant, little breadcrumbs that we plant so that people can digest it. It's not threatening to them. It's more enticing to them. And then you see them the next time and you drop your next seed. You see them the next time, you drop your next seed. And little by little, because again, you have that proximity and that trust equity, you have so much more influence. It's the best get out the vote campaign out there, in the Republican Party, in any party. When we get into election season, we talk about the big drive right before the election is the get out the vote campaign. And that's usually done with door knockers, with phone bankers, and, it might be with canvassing, putting signs everywhere. And again, I'm not saying that that's not helpful, but it's just antiquated, in my opinion. These days, especially because of the migrant invasion that we've had, women especially we're not real comfortable opening our door to a stranger anymore. Especially, I don't care how they're dressed. You can show up in a wrapped in an American flag, and they're still going to be reluctant to answer the door to you. So the door knocking, I did it. I mean, I was a candidate. Most of y'all know that I ran for office in 2020, and I door knocked the heck out of my community. I have probably still have some scars and bruises to show for it. It's very, very time consuming and incredibly demanding on your body thing to do. And this is what we all do as candidates. We door knock. And I resisted it at first. I grew to actually enjoy it because there were a few times when I actually would get someone that would come to the door. Most people don't come to the door. Most people, you hang literature on their doorknob and that's kind of it. And what I would do, I had a little, what's called a palm card. It was like, a little square card about this big. And I would write on it. I would say, I'm sorry, I missed you. If you have any questions about my platform, which was listed on the palm card, I would put my phone number and I'd say, call me. I'd love to talk to you. And I actually did get calls back from that. So it was a little more personal and I would hang that on their door. But there were some people that would actually come to the door. And in those cases, I did have opportunities to have great conversations and I enjoyed that. But it's just very, very rare. I would say out of a whole neighborhood that you might door knock, you might, out of like, let's say 100 homes, you might get 10% of that actually answers the door. So is it the best use of your time? I don't think so. I think it's a lot better use of your time to get great at having conversations with all the people that you encounter on a regular basis and win them to our values in snack bite sizes. I think that's just so much smarter. The phone banking too, same thing. The policy of the Get Out the Vote campaign typically is you have a bunch of people that get in a room and they get a call list. Like there's usually a little app and the app will auto dial the Republican people in your community. And then when they pick up, then you say, hi, I'm Diane Canada. I'm running for office. I would sure appreciate your vote. Is there anything on your mind this election season? And again, how many people actually pick up the phone? Number one, we all hate robocalls. We all hate the robo-dialing. We hate it. I hate it. When you're being robo-dialed because there's that delay. You pick up the phone and there's that, 5-second delay before somebody comes on the phone. So it's spam or somebody you don't want to talk to. And then when you do get them on the phone, a lot of times they'll just hang up on you. If you're lucky enough to actually have a conversation with them, a lot of them are reluctant to tell you over the phone where they stand politically, especially if they're conservative, because of the consequences that can come with that. So really, you have 20 people sitting in a room making these robocalls. Let's say maybe 5-10% of the people pick up. Out of those percentage that pick up, how many of them hang up on you? So maybe you get, a few percent of people, a handful of people that will actually listen to you. It's like, I used to do this in business. I would go into a business, and in this case, let's just say it's the Republican Party. I would go in and I'd say, why are y'all phone banking? Or I would say to a business, why are you doing it this way? Just help me understand. Why are you doing it this way? And they would always say, I don't know. It's just the way we've always done it. That was what the number one thing I would always hear. I don't know. It's just the way we've always done it. Don't you think we need to step back and go, maybe there's a better way? Like maybe this worked at one point, but maybe it doesn't work anymore. And I'll tell you something else that doesn't work is the doomsday text messaging. The text message. And I donated to some campaigns during this past election cycle, Trump included. And I would get bombarded with doomsday text messages. If you don't give $5 today, we risk losing our country to the Marxists. Now, again, nobody's more passionate about our country than I am. I mean, I know there's a lot of us maybe as passionate about it, but I'm pretty passionate about our country not being handed over to Marxists. But even I was just exhausted by the barrage of text messages that I got. And it didn't make me want to give. What it made me want, I was just looking for the unsubscribe button everywhere. It's like you unsubscribe from one, but it's like whack-a-mole, then 10 more pop up. It was just overwhelming. And that's their fundraising. If they can, my other favorite is where they'll say, Trump wants to have dinner with you. enter, put your $10 in and for a chance to win dinner with Trump. I mean, these are elections. They're not raffles. It's again, I just sit and I look at it and I'm like, really, Republicans, is this all we can do? Is this the best we can do? I've always been one to try to build a better mousetrap. And, they could sit and they could say, well, who are you to try to tell us, what to do? Who are you? We've been doing this before you were even born, all that. You know what? I'm a person that can look at something and go, this just really isn't working. And maybe we can try something better. You don't have to be a Republican for, be working in the get out the vote campaigns for 50 years to see that. You shouldn't be. A critical person can sit back and look, a critical thinking person, can sit back and go, maybe we can do this better. So this is the spirit in which I say this. Anything that we're doing to try and win our country back to God and to his values starts with us. It starts with our foundation, our own hearts and our own minds. If we hope to win someone else, we hope to win their heart and their mind, then ours needs to be right. Ours needs to be pure. Ours needs to be coming from a place of peace and trying to attract people. There was some great people that I used to listen to, again, in business, but I think it really applies to the cultural aspect. I used to love to listen to Seth Godin. I think it's spelled Godin, Seth Godin, but he had a book called Purple Cow. And it's the whole premise of his work is attraction marketing. So rather than interruption marketing. And so what he means by that is that, how when you're watching a YouTube video and maybe you're at a really critical point, you're really dialed in, and then all of a sudden an ad pops up about something so random, and then it's frustrating, and then you just want it to stop so you can get back to the thing that you were so engaged in. That's interruption marketing. That's, hey, this person meets this demographic. Maybe in my case, maybe it's a female who's, 45 years old. She's got, teenage kids, whatever. And she lives in the suburbs, and we're going to target that demographic. And she's probably going to care about these walking shoes that you're trying to sell. So we're going to interject the walking shoe video in the middle of Diane's Lady Up America video, because she's probably going to be our target demo for that. Okay, I get that and I understand that, but it's just so rude, I think. This is why I don't have ads on my podcast. I just feel like they're rude. I feel like they're taking advantage of that woman who was kind enough to tune into my show. She's trusting me. She's wanting to hear what I'm pouring into her. And now I'm going to let some company interrupt her ability to absorb that information by trying to sell her something. To me, it just feels rude. It feels very opportunistic and very rude. So again, it's kind of the same thing when we're trying to attract people. We're trying to win them to our values. We can't have this interruption marketing in the Republican sense would be door knocking. You're interrupting what they're doing, like they're home. They're not expecting anybody to come to the door. You've just interrupted their life to ask for their vote. That's one way to look at it. You'll have people in the party that will say, no, they want you to come to their door. If you this is what made me want to do it, is they would say, Diane, you're showing that person that you cared enough to go meet them, that you cared enough to climb their insanely high driveway and then their flight of 20 stairs to get up to their door. And that happens so much. A lot of my territory here was a town called Belmead. And I'm telling you, those lawns and driveways and stairways up to their houses are no joke. I want to tell you. So some people look at it like, hey, she cared enough to make the effort to come meet me. She's got my vote. Okay, there's some credibility in that. But again, when I tell you how many of those I actually had the opportunity to meet, very few. So it just feels like it's an interruption in their life. I'm showing up at their doorstep. They're not expecting me, or I'm robocalling them, or I'm doomsday text messaging them. It's just rude. I just feel like it's so rude. I would much rather attract them. So go where they're at and build a relationship with them and attract them to what I have to say. You lean in and find out where they're at. That kind of moves into my entertaining step that I always talk about. But if I don't have my housekeeping step right, my very first step in the Lady Up America technique is housekeeping. If I don't have my own house in order, then I'm not going to be near as effective in trying to win them. So let me just kind of touch on this housekeeping step for a second, because I spend more time on this than I do anything else. And there's a reason for that. Like I just said, if the foundation is not there, if our part of, if our own home, our own inner heart and mind is not in order, it's not pure, we're not coming from the right motive, all that, they're going to be able to tell. And you're not going to have near the influence on them. Again, these are people that you see over and over again. These are people that are a part of your life, maybe in some other capacity. So if we hope to attract them to what we have to say, then we've got to have a pretty solid foundation that we're operating from. And so my 3 steps in Lady Up are housekeeping, entertaining, and gardening. So housekeeping being what I'm saying, cleaning up our own house, making sure our attitudes are right, making sure we're walking out the fruit of the Spirit. And I go into all this in my teaching. It's a lot more to it than that, but that's the premise. Second is entertaining. This is where you're entertaining their worldview. You're getting to know them. You're leaning in and you're being a curious listener, and you want to know how they arrived at their worldview. Again, you're building that trust equity, because when you put in the time to try and understand where they're coming from, then you've earned permission to be heard. And a lot of people skip that step. They just go right to what they believe, and that's where we miss it. And then that third step, gardening, is what I'm talking about earlier, where we're planting seeds, we're planting breadcrumbs, we're leaving lingering questions in their mind that are really smart questions. This is not your average everyday questions, but you're dropping very purposeful and very valuable questions into their mind that they will marinate on. And you're doing it in such a graceful way that they want to come back and talk to you about it. So you're not repelling them. You're actually attracting them because you're doing it so graceful and so smart. And that's what this whole Lady Up America does. My techniques. It's how I used to win businesses. I'm going to tell you what, when you go into a business and it's in freak out and everybody's stressed. I mean, think about when you're in one of your most stressful moments in your life. Let's say that you're about to lose something. Maybe you're behind on your house and you're about to lose your house, or your car's about to get repoed, or whatever it is, because you've missed several payments. When you're in that state of mind, it's really hard to be able to see past the next minute, much less the next year. And that's where I would get, it's like I would parachute in that stressful moment and have to get them into a mindset and into a place where they were able to think past the next minute, where they were able to actually start thinking about something other than the immediate fire that they had to put out, the immediate pressure. There's an art to that. And so all of that I did those years in business, now I do in Lady Up. And it's the same thing. Like we've got people right now that we engage with that are in that frame of mind around our country, that have issues on their mind that they think are life and death, or that they think are so paramount, so important that they can't think about anything else. And so we're a country in crisis right now. So if we are going to win them to our values, we first have to be peacemakers. We first have to, not peacekeepers, but peacemakers. In other words, we have to come in and exhibit that fruit of the Spirit, exhibit that peace that they're going to be attracted to. And we're coming from a place where we're not threatening them. Like I said, when you're in that state of mind, everything's a threat, right? It's so hard to settle down. You don't have the perspective. You don't have the wherewithal to handle one more thing to deal with. You just are going to reject anything that threatens your worldview, anything that threatens you in any way. You're just going to reject it. So again, there's an art to winning that person. I had a pretty good career doing that for a long time. I know what I'm talking about. So this is a better way. It's a better mousetrap. And I love you, Charlie Kirk, and I respect what you're doing out there. And I think he's doing a much better job these days. I respect Daily Wire and a lot of the voices that come out of there. I don't agree with their approach. But I'm not going to criticize it. Obviously they have a very big platform, so a lot of people are drawn to that. But I just feel like the Republican Party, it's time to build a better mousetrap. And we better start dialing into trust, equity, and relationships if we hope to win our country back. Right now, we had a big mandate given to Trump. We have a lot of trendy Trump voters, but we cannot count on that next election because he's not on the ballot. So I'm just saying, maybe there's something to this. All right, so that's my show for today. I know I'm a little fired up, but we gotta do better, y'all. We just gotta work smarter, not harder. We gotta work smarter. And like I said, I think there's a lot of important voices out there. I think in this particular area, I've got some expertise. I think we need a lot of different voices out there in a lot of different ways. But I'm just saying that as a party, I think we need to revisit some of these things we've done in the past, admit that they don't work, and put our time and effort into something that's a lot more fruitful. That's my suggestion. All right. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next time. Lady up.
Lady up around this house. Lady up around this